Hello, Philadelphia! I'm Bruce Buffer. It's time for the Anthony Gorgano Show!
Good morning. Good morning. It is a Victory Monday. Happy Monday to all across the Delaware Valley. This is the Anthony Gargano Show presented by Rite Aid, your neighborhood pharmacy. RiteAid.com for the pharmacy nearest you, your local pharmacy. All right, we need a little pharmacy yesterday, but let's make sure we get this out. The Eagles win yesterday, 22-16. Saquon breaks the record, breaks Shady's record for the, this is amazing, man, single season rushing record. What a year. I know it got gory yesterday, and there is a ton to unravel and unfold, beginning with the quarterback, who was dreadful yesterday. I mean, there's no way around it. He was just dreadful. He had a horrible game. Normally, what he's good at is playing point guard, right? You know, taking the yards when he needs them, getting the good throw, those things. Playing that point guard, which is very important. Yesterday, he just didn't play well. Now, as a whole, I didn't think that team played well at all. I mean, I think the Eagles, I thought it was clearly that you want to call it a trap game, a letdown game, and that's very real. I love it when people go, well, it's a trap game. That's cliche. Well, no, it's not. Not when you go through the schedule that they had gone through. They had gone through a pretty wicked last couple of weeks. You had Washington interspersed there, obviously the Rams, and then on to the Ravens, right? So it was a pretty impressive stretch of 8 straight wins. And the last few were tough games. I mean, the Ravens game was a tough game. And this is not an excuse. This is just a fact that when you're playing a team like that and then you win, you beat the Rams, who had that game against Buffalo yesterday, right? And then you come back and you beat the Ravens, there's going to be a letdown when you're facing a bad team like Carolina. And Carolina's been playing well, the whole thing. But the whole team was kind of just had a little bit of a letdown, and you can see it. I think those things are very real. You go from playing, prime time game 2 weeks ago to the 4:25 game, the important game of the weekend, to a 1 o'clock at home kind of sleepy opponent. You're going to play down to it. That's just kind of what it is. Now, it's not an excuse, but it's kind of more of a reality. They should have lost, quite frankly, because Leggett has the ball. He clearly drops it. It hits the ground. But you got to catch that. Like, you catch it, roll into the end zone, and then it's up to the Eagles to come down and try to tie it with a field goal, which is an entirely other issue of worry. Like, I could slough off a lot of yesterday with it's just a bad spot type of game because those things exist. Come down, let down, whole nine we just got done talking about. But the kicking is a problem. Like, right now, my man, Jake Elliott, is lost. I mean, that kick wasn't even close. And you could see that they're a little upset about it. You could see that that Sirianni's worried about it. You can see it. The quarterback, again, I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't know what he's looking at. Like, early on, he's got A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown was open all game. And his answers really don't make sense. That on the one he takes the sack instead of throwing the ball away, he said he was afraid of an illegal man downfield, which would have been 5 yards. You keep the down. I mean, I don't know, dude. Like, what are you thinking about? That my biggest issue in how we played yesterday is that, listen, guys are going to have bad games, right? Like, that's part of it. But he didn't think the game yesterday. Like, you can't not think the game when you're the quarterback. You got to do a better job of managing it. Like, that's where he took bad sacks. He was gun shy. And that's where he really needs to button that thing up. Because come playoff time, I mean, it's great that you got Barkley, but you're going to need to throw the ball. You just are. You're going to have to be. He's got to get some confidence back in that pass game. And he's got to connect with AJ. I mean, listen, after the game, AJ was upset because he could have had, 180 yards. But they're going to have to figure that. He's going to have to work through this because you can't just go into the playoffs hoping to run the ball and just ride Saquon. He's going to have to make some throws down the field. You're playing better teams. It's just what you got to do. So, and God forbid you got to go to Detroit in the dome. See, getting him here is one thing. But if you got to play Detroit in the dome, chances are you're going to have to answer with more than just Saquon. You're going to have to answer down the field with throws. And this is where Hurts has to find himself. Like, what I really want to see over the next few games is him finding some sort of rhythm in that pass game. Because let's be honest, other than heaving it up to AJ, the pass game hasn't been in great rhythm. I mean, that's real. We knew that from the beginning. They are what they are. They're a downhill run team. But when you have those weapons, you still got to be able to throw it. And that's something that's got to get squared away before the playoffs. But overall, I just thought I sloughed a lot of that off to just being a Carolina in a bad spot. And the truth of the matter is they escaped. Now, next week in Pittsburgh, right? Like, that's going to be a great game. It's at home against a really good defense. That's going to be a good test. Good morning, my man, VG. Violations Greg.
Good morning. And a good morning it is. Nick is punting the ball. The playoffs are clinched. Saquon's breaking records. They're 11-2. Johnny Marks is taking his coat off before he goes in the bathroom this morning.
I saw that too.
The Lions get Buffalo off a loss. Embiid's back. Sixers win.
Dick Allen makes the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, man. It's a good weekend.
Right. Dick Allen makes the Hall of Fame. Embiid scored 31.
Yeah.
Now let's see if he plays Friday.
No, of course not. Come on. Yeah, man. It's a good weekend. Good morning. It's a good Monday here in Eagle Land, Philadelphia, PA.
Yeah. Let's be honest.
Yeah, the quarterback stunk.
He was horrible.
Stunk. I mean, it is the season. Stunk.
I mean, he was terrible. And look, the two areas of concern. I excuse a game like that. It's impossible to go through a stretch and not have a letdown game. That's very, very real. So I excuse a lot of that. Like, I thought the defense was probably their worst in weeks. Right?
If they had a slightly better quarterback, the Panthers, they would have had 14 more points probably.
Oh, yeah. Well, and if Leggett, that ball was right there.
Yeah. And he slow motion. They're showing it like crazy on ESPN. It looks like he almost put his arm out to brace his fall.
I know. And that's it was weak.
That's weak.
And that's what happened while the ball hit the turf.
Yeah.
But that's a different story. Obviously, he catches the ball. He's in the end zone. And then it's up to you it's up to Jalen to get the ball down the field, 50 seconds. You got all your timeouts, but you got a kicker that's
you got to get in the end zone.
Yeah, that right now, he's mind is mush.
What is going on, man?
He looks like I don't even know what to do.
It's like, what's going on with the two of them?
They
both look terrible.
They got the disease.
It's wild.
Like the Monstar disease.
They're not even close.
Like way off. Like that attempt was horrible. It was like way off, man. So, again, when I look at it, I don't know about you, but I just see it's a fact of the NFL. You're gonna have letdown games. That's just what it is.
I think you see it. It's 3 weeks in a row now. Good teams are struggling against this Panthers team. Mentally, they're tough to take seriously, and they're scrappy. You know, they got a little life. They play better than you think. When you see their score, the highlights, they play better than you think they do.
Oh, Thielen, right? You know, you look at it.
Yeah. I remember someone on this panel got crushed wanting to get Thielen at the deadline for a third receiver. He's too slow. He's old. Oh, Thielen.
You gotta give you credit.
He's a crafty little receiver out there.
He is.
He took
but I wouldn't do it for a third-round pick.
DeJean struggled a little bit with him.
More than Dotson. Your point is correct. Yeah, he played well yesterday.
He's crafty, man.
You know, he played well yesterday. And look, I think Bryce Young did a lot of improvising. Mm-hmm. That kind of caught them a little bit. Yes. I mean, overall, they just did. I mean, it was just that kind of game. Now, my only real concern, there's two real concerns, is they got to get some sort of rhythm in the pass game.
I don't know how that happens because there were plays for the rhythm to be set up, and he's just not. He's either not seeing it or he doesn't want to see it. His sacks yesterday, Franny had it on his piece. I mean, he sacked 4 times on 9 of the slowest pressures in the league yesterday. It's over almost 4 seconds.
No, I mean,
and he's not throwing the ball downfield with these 4 seconds. His average attempt is like 5 yards. He's throwing it after holding the ball 4 seconds.
I don't know what's going on with him. Like
that's a glaring thing, man.
No, their line. Like if I'm an offensive lineman, I'm pissed.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And again, he does not throw the ball away. I just don't understand it. Like I don't understand why he takes sacks. I don't understand sometimes what he's looking at or not looking at. He's got the yips, at least when it comes to throwing.
Like a slant.
Like the guys are open and he doesn't want to risk it.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if those early turnovers got in his head.
Right.
And he's in that mode of, I can't throw a pick.
Does he not?
And sometimes, listen, like, nobody likes
We're all
interceptions.
good with interceptions, the right ones. Just like every now and then they're going to happen.
Guys are going to do it. I always say it's the cost of doing business.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to throw the ball down the field. Sometimes you're going to get picked.
Yeah.
You can't be afraid of that.
No, I'm with you. Maybe he doesn't trust his arm strength. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But there are plays to be made, and then he just holds it along. He got lucky with the Calcaterra. I mean, that guy's Calcaterra getting open is not normally going to happen. And you hold the ball a long time there. I mean,
well, no, if it's against, like, you can't. See, this is next week.
You can't hold the ball 4 seconds against the Steelers front line.
That was exactly my point.
You'll be sacked 30 times.
This is what next week is a real test for them because he's got to get back. He doesn't look like, I can't explain it. Can't put my finger on it. Like head in the game. Like he's not processing quickly. He's not seeing the field the way he should.
Something's
I don't know.
weird.
It's like a funk. I don't know. Is it a funk? What it is? It's like almost. It was just. Listen, I lauded him for playing point guard during this whole winning streak.
Yeah,
and he's done a good job at it. But he's at some point, man. You got to be able to dart the ball a little bit.
Can he dart the ball? He's never been a dart the ball guy.
Okay, well, you got to be able to go down the field in chunks.
Yeah, well, he's usually good with that.
Just deep balls to AJ up and down the field. I'm talking a 20-yard, over the middle. You see it every.
I mean, that's not who he is.
Well, but you need it. Like you got to be able to do that.
I don't. Has he ever done it? I don't.
Well, during the Super Bowl year, he did it. Like during the Super Bowl year, there were big plays in the pass game. Now I know teams play it differently now than they did back then. It was a different type of scheme. But you're going to have you need to have some chunk plays, intermediate plays, where down the field. You got to have it.
I would think so, but I don't know. They're 11-2 without it. We'll see. I mean, they've beaten some good teams without it.
Yeah, I hear you. Rams,
I don't know.
and Ravens,
but again,
I just go. At some point, you got to have it in the playoffs.
Here we are this morning, and I wake up and ESPN's on, and the headline is "Why Eagles Why." right? And they're talking about Jalen in the passing game. And here, Orlowski did a breakdown. JP's got it ready for us. This is pretty good.
All right, so conversation in Philly after the game. A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts. A.J.'s asked, okay, what's got to improve or whatnot? And he says, passing, the pass game. And I think this play is pretty representative of what yesterday was, okay? This is not the only one that looks like this. So you're just getting hardball essential play action. You're trying to get downhill play action, and this is a 3-level throw where A.J. Brown's going to run what we call a pylon. There's an inside release, sail, and then a flat route, right? It's 1, down here, 2, 3. And this is really an alert off this defender, okay? If you're the quarterback. If this defender has depth and whatnot, you're then going off this defender. That corner gets out of there, you're going sail to flat route, and you're trying to get him to go up here to throw this ball. You're always having vision on this defender as a quarterback. Okay, if you get nosy, because this safety in the middle of the field, right? If you get nosy, I could take a shot at this pylon. This is about as pretty black and white, clear and wide open as it gets. The pocket is absolutely spectacular. You would say, right now, that ball should be launched, okay? Doesn't see it, checks it down.
Wow.
This ball's a touchdown.
I mean, that's pretty much
Wow.
it, JP. He just goes over.
Wow. I mean, listen, that's what you see.
Yeah.
And listen, I watch the tape every week, and there is a lot of that. He doesn't see a lot of that stuff. I mean, again, you bring up the point that they're able to go 9-2 or 11-2 without that in the offense.
Will hold up in the playoffs. Fingers crossed.
I mean, my gut. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just watched whether it's the Lions or the Packers or the Vikings, right? Like there's those 3 teams in the North. And even if you see the Rams again.
Well, I mean,
right?
Yeah, we saw the Rams when they were just their first game back, the receivers, they're getting their legs and their timing down.
Also, their O-line. Like what they did yesterday is they protected.
Yeah.
Like they protected really well yesterday. And they gave Stafford a clean pocket for most of the day. And that's where you saw him going to Puka. Puka's outrageous. But if you got to play any of those other teams in the playoffs, I got to believe you're going to need to score with just more than Saquon.
Hey, and the teams that you're going to see in the playoffs, you're not going to be able to hold the ball 3.5, 4 seconds and have anything. It's just not going to happen.
We saw the Packers front, right? The Packers front against Detroit. It's a good front. It's good against the run, right? The Lions with Zadarius Smith, they're better. They're going to get Anzalone back, the safety.
The report Hutchinson's might be back for the championship game.
Right. So you're going to wind up. You're going to see something up front, and they're aggressive. So you got that. I don't really fear the Rams. They have a decent front.
Yeah.
But they should move the ball on the Rams, right? And the Vikings, they have a really good front. Their back end is not good, right? But if their back end's not good, does that matter against the Eagles?
No, I mean, we saw a play there where the back end was terrible. He's wide open. Doesn't matter.
I mean, this is something that, and look, I know it's weird. Like we have this, we're very protective of Jalen in town, and we don't want to criticize anything or whatever. But this is really just, hey, it's not hating or criticism or whatever. It's like pretty
it's
obvious.
justified.
Well, it's pretty obvious. And if you're looking to extrapolate into the playoffs, I think it's something you got to talk about, man. I think it's something that he needs to fix between him and Elliott. I mean, you got to be able to. I'm worried about Elliott because I don't know that you'll ever, because now you got to go get another kicker and stash him because who knows.
Where do you find that at this point?
On the street.
But I don't even know you're gonna be playing Dan Campbell. No one's kicking in that game. It's just touchdowns.
Yeah, I hear, but you still need to have something, somebody on speed dial in case the guy completely blows up. So you have that issue. I mean, defensively they didn't play well yesterday. Coop got smoked.
It was a learning moment for him, man. He's gone up against an old veteran.
I'm not worried about their defense. I mean, the only thing that scares me about their defense is the front is playing a ton of snaps.
Yeah.
Like they're playing.
But Carter was ridiculous again yesterday.
He's the best. Jalen Carter is ridiculous. He's so good.
He's so quick for so big.
He is. He's unbelievable, man. He really is. Now, I mean, that's the only thing that really concerns me defensively is the amount of snaps, and do they kind of wear down on you?
Yeah, I mean, well, our man Vince is in the chat saying the defense is so good it's going to keep the scoring down, and it will. But I guess there were some plays against this defense with a better quarterback. The scoring, the Panthers should have 28 points yesterday.
Yeah, and I wonder, is that the letdown thing? I'm a believer in the defense. I really am. The only thing is, it's stressful if you got to play. And think about the offenses that are out there. The Packers' offense is very good.
Mm-hmm.
The Vikings' offense, even though it's Darnold, the fact is they got those receivers.
They got a situation up there, too. Now they got a rookie quarterback they drafted really high. What are you going to move on from Darnold?
Those receivers,
Good luck.
But Addison, you see what Addison's doing?
He's
He's
killing my Jefferson fantasy numbers.
I mean, right. I mean, Jefferson's ridiculous.
But Addison.
But you got Addison, and you got Naylor, and you got Hawkinson.
Yeah.
They got really good weapons. So as much as, and listen, I have great faith in the Eagles defense, but teams are going to score, and it's no slight to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get the Lions. So you get those three teams in the North that can all move the football and all score. I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of stress on your defense.
People in the chat thinking Jalen is afraid of the interceptions, and because he's not thrown them and they're winning, he's good playing this way.
Yeah, I believe that there is a bit of a hesitancy because of the fact of not throwing the picks. You could see it. He looks like he does not want to put the ball in peril.
I saw the touchdown that goes to Calcaterra, though. Like what's the hesitant with A.J. Brown is wide open?
I don't know. And here's the other thing.
There's no one's going to intercept that ball.
No, but here's the other thing that bothers me is that's fine. Like when you don't want to throw a pick, but you got to throw the ball away. You got to be smart with it or take off or do something. You can't take sacks. Like the sacks that he took were bad. Like that's not going to work in the playoffs. It's a different animal in the playoffs. And what you see in the regular season, I'm sorry, he's got to up his game. Has to. I don't think you can win like this in the playoffs and get to a Super Bowl.
No. Fit Dad CEO says Jalen's playing prevent offense.
Well, that's a great line. Prevent offense. That's a great line. Yeah, he's got to get it together, man. Come on, Jalen.
And the delay of game penalties, like, come on. It's just stupid plays yesterday.
Yeah.
Not seeing the field combined with some really stupid plays.
Dude, call the timeout. Like,
Right.
What are you doing? You see the play clock, like call the timeout. That's what I mean about managing the game.
Especially when you got a kicker who's struggling.
He did not manage the game properly. All right, we got lots to get to. It is a victory Monday, even though, we're going to bitch about the passing game and the quarterback a little bit. Lots to get to today. And congratulations to Dick Allen.
Yeah, long overdue.
Right? Like, he's one of the legends of Philadelphia. He finally got into the Baseball Hall of Fame. A lot of the old heads that came before us are thrilled today.
Yeah, one of my dad's favorite players.
You see Pat McClune, our buddy.
He's like breaking news.
Yeah,
He texted us.
that was awesome. So we'll get Jim Salisbury will join us for the winter meetings. The Mets land Soto.
Man, that's a lot of money.
Oh, $800 million. Are you gotta be kidding?
It averages out like $50 million a year.
My buddy Vinny said this, and he's right. Like, Ohtani's a bargain.
Yeah.
Like, you're getting a pitcher and an MVP caliber hitter when you're looking at,
And that's deferred. None of the Soto's deferred.
Look at Harper. Harper's a
But he's going to have to get re-upped now. He made mentions about it last year. They're going to have to restructure him a little bit. You don't think?
That contract is worth it now.
Yeah. It's a bargain.
I mean, come on, bro. No, just come on, man. Just play ball. All right. It's crazy. We'll get into so we'll talk to Jim Salisbury coming up in about 20 minutes. Z Burn, as always, will join us.
I think Berman was asking the good question. They got the sound bites with AJ.
He always does. He always does. I know AJ was hot yesterday, man. AJ was not happy yesterday.
I mean, he ends up with 44 yards.
Yeah, no, AJ's looking going, I could have had 180 yards and 2 touchdowns, bro. Come on, man. AJ was not feeling it yesterday. I was talking to someone down there who goes, AJ, and they had to get people over there and walk into his car.
Oh, snap.
You know? All right. Go ahead. Tell us.
I was going to say, man.
Primo's guy.
You feel a little under the weather, maybe Ready's got a vaccine for you, because they got vaccines for everything, it seems like these days. Protect yourself and your family by staying up to date on your immunizations. Rite Aid pharmacists are specially trained, certified immunizers, and most vaccines are no cost through your government health plans like Medicare Part D or your personal health plans. Rite Aid's got vaccinations for pneumonia, tetanus, whooping cough, chickenpox, that RSV that somehow showed up a couple years ago is floating around, COVID-19, and the shingles. You know, pretty much all of us, if we've had the chickenpox, you're at risk of shingles, which is a painful rash caused by the same virus that causes chickenpox. Select Rite Aid stores have dedicated pharmacists ready to administer vaccines and answer all your questions. So if you got questions like what immunizations do you need, you're not sure if you're up to date, or if you're just nervous, there's no question too small. Ask a Rite Aid pharmacist and they'll take time to make a personalized recommendation for you, go over your health history, and discuss all your concerns. No questions are too small. Just walk in or schedule an appointment Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. State, age, and health restrictions do apply. Ask your Rite Aid pharmacist for more details.
All right, my brother. Let's talk a little Primos. We're going to be at Primos on Wednesday.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
I had a little Primos Saturday. Watched the Flyers, tweeted out, picture of me with my turkey, watching the Flyers. Yeah. Ordered it in, didn't feel like leaving the house.
Yeah. That's all right. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, we'll be at the headquarters. Primos headquarters.
Where is Primos headquarters?
It's just over the bridge.
All right. Yeah. In Primo, New Jersey, is it called? Yeah. They have their own town? Yeah. All right.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a show Wednesday from the Primo headquarters. And as always, first, Primo's gift cards are there. So perfect stocking stuffer. And, of course, the Primo Care. So one of the things that I know that Big Nick and his wife Gina, they're really, really, when it comes to their Primo Cares portion, where they take care of a lot of people during the holidays. They give away a lot of money for people in need during the holidays. So Primo Cares is, of course, a big part of the Primo Hoagies family. Look, during this whole period, you're going to have people stopping over. Everybody's going to be hanging out. It's the holidays. You can't go wrong with having Primos, right? The party trays, the pickies. We do it Christmas Eve. I get the pickies. The pepperoni and cheeses, the pepper shooters, the mozzarella balls.
Plate of pickies.
So all the pickies are out there. So while I'm cooking, it's the perfect kind of thing. And I get the bread. It's the best.
Yeah, man.
All the hoagies, all the cookies, everything, you name it. PrimoHoagies.com. And then you'll say what I always say. It's not just a hoagie. It's a Primo. All right. Now, joining us, does such a great job covering the birds for our all PHLY. He is my man, Zach Berman. Zachariah.
Hey, good morning. Good talking to you guys.
Well, buddy, good questions yesterday, because I thought you, I really thought you bored down into the story of that game.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, it's the reality of the situation the Eagles are in, and I would say it's something that they've earned. That when you're 11-2, when you're not just judging what it takes to beat the Panthers, you're judging what it takes to win in January and February, and we spoke about that last week. And so I thought from that game yesterday, my big takeaway was, yes, they won, but that passing game was not where it needs to be, and there were opportunities there, but to have fewer than 100 net yards passing, for Jalen to barely crack 100 passing yards, when for A.J. Brown to go through 3 quarters with only 2 targets in that game, I thought that was concerning. So I get it, they won, but I don't think the way they played yesterday will allow them to win next month. And, if they're fortunate enough to get to February. So that's why I kind of harped on what I did. And I'll say this, that was a self-aware locker room. That was a locker. I give those guys credit for understanding that they're certainly not oblivious to what's going on in the passing game right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, that's the one thing. My takeaway last year versus this year is this locker room, the leadership. It's a good room, and it's a room that's conducive to winning. Look, they just got to get this thing uncorked a little bit. Like they don't need to be the Rams, with Puka and Cooper Kupp. You just need a semblance of it. What do you think is going on with Jalen right now?
I wish I knew. I think part of it is he doesn't want to turn the ball over, right? So I think he's careful about where he's going with the ball. Uh, Whether he's slow seeing things or doesn't want to put up those 50-50 balls, those are all fair points there. But I just keep going back to the way this team is designed, the way this roster is designed, the way this offense is designed is you need to get AJ the ball. You need to get Devontae the ball. They had 10 total targets combined. There were 18 players in the NFL yesterday who had more than 10 targets or who had at least 10 targets. So that speaks to, like, I get they're a run first team, but you still got to get your guys touches. And so what's going on with Jalen? I mean, I think if we're being generous, we're saying he's playing careful. There were turnover issues earlier this year, and he doesn't want to turn the ball over. If you're being really critical, you're saying he's just not seeing things out there that he needs to see.
Yeah, there's a couple things off of that. One, he's also not managing the game right. Like, he's taking sacks. Like, he's holding on to the ball. Look, if you're afraid to throw it away. He took the delay of game penalty. Like, some of his answers don't make sense. Like, he was afraid to get the illegal man downfield penalty, and so he takes the sack when, I got the down back and it's only 5 yards. Like, some of the stuff, like, you got to get your head in the game. Like, that frustrates me. You're the quarterback, man. You got to get the head in the game. You got to manage the game correctly. Look, he's never going to be, I don't know who you want to call, Stafford or Allen when it comes to throwing the ball down the field, right? Like, it comes to being that guy who's going to dot guys all day. That's not who he is. But what makes him effective is playing point guard, right? Being that style of quarterback. If you're not doing that, then you got a problem.
Yeah, and we've seen him. Look, I think the statute of limitations on 2022 is probably expired, but we've seen him go downfield and really take advantage of the matchups when they have one-on-one on the outside. Frankly, we saw that last year when AJ had that string of 100+ yard games, and it's not even dotting the defense. It's easy for me to set gimmies out there. Like, I don't have the ball in my hand. I don't have the pass rush after me. But when you watch it, there are plays where you say that should go to AJ and give him a chance. Either he's open or give him a chance to make a play on the ball. And I always use this comparison is that this isn't baseball where Bryce Harper bats and he has to wait eight more hitters before he bats again. There's nothing against you throwing the ball to AJ over and over again, multiple times a drive. And you mentioned the Rams. They're getting the ball to Puka over and over again. They're getting the ball to Kupp over and over again, right? Because when you have guys like that, you get them the ball. So, I know there's some being made of AJ's comments yesterday. Frankly, I appreciate the honesty. I've been around AJ now for 2+ years. I don't think he's a diva or anything of that nature. I think that he's competitive. He wants to win, and he knows that the way to win is to get him the ball. Like, when he slammed his helmet, he came after a 3-and-out when I think there was a 5-man rush on the play from the Panthers, and AJ had single coverage on the outside, and he beat his man. Right? When you have one of the best receivers in the NFL, maybe the best receiver in the NFL, one-on-one on the outside, and he beats his man, he should get the ball. And so the Eagles went 3-and-out twice on the first 3 drives. They haven't scored a touchdown on the opening possession of a game. 3 of the past 5 games, AJ Brown hasn't touched the ball on the opening possession, hasn't been targeted on the opening possession. So whether that's on Jalen, whether that's on Kellen Moore, Uh, I I believe in force feeding your stars the ball. Like get him the
See,
ball.
I
There should
hear
there
that.
were
I hear
yeah.
that they're trying to get him the ball.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
Fran. Yeah, I know you're. I know you're gonna have Fran on later. Fran's already broken down the film. Fran showed plays early
yeah,
in the game on that opening drive. Plays designed to get AJ the ball,
yep,
and but you go back to the point guard. The point guard has to pass the score of the ball.
yeah. No, I mean it's true. And when I say, dot the ball down the field, like you're right in that down the field to AJ, go make a play. We've seen that. In
Yeah,
2022, again, I throw part of it out because the defenses didn't catch up. They were on their heels, right, to all that RPO game. And guys, the windows were wide open. He doesn't have the windows that he had, right? Like in 2022, those were almost college windows to throw to.
yeah.
He's got to start throwing guys open. I mean, guys are open. He's got to see them first. He's got to correctly identify it. I don't think he'll ever be that guy who's going to go 20 yards, middle seam, down the seams, and just throw darts. Like, that's not what he is. But you could win going on the outside to A.J. Brown. I think that's your point.
Yeah, and like frankly, all over the field. I go back to my training camp notes. You know how many times in my training camp notes I have slant to AJ, slant to AJ, slant to AJ, right? And then for some reason during games, they do it twice and it works, and they just get away from it. So I get it. You can't call the same play every time, but AJ's that type of player. I mean, Devontae's that type of player. You can get them the ball. Uh, there are so many opportunities to get them the ball and still not doing it at the expense of Saquon Barkley rushing for 100 yards 8 times this season. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive. So that's why I don't like hearing the excuse they're a run first team, because you can still run the ball effectively with Saquon and pass the ball to AJ Brown and Devontae Smith.
Hey, Zach, you touched on how AJ's not a diva, and I don't think he is. And I'm not trying to make it that there's drama and stuff going on, but we had conversations earlier in the season about Devontae not getting targets. And you mentioned in your piece today, Devontae and AJ combined for 10 targets, and there's 18 other players yesterday alone that got targeted more than 10 times. I mean, you're in there and you see the psyche, and they are wide receivers. This is part of what the make of wide receivers. Like, how long? I mean, it seems like things are bubbling a little bit with frustration. And how long do you think this can go? If things don't change, do you think we're going to have an issue?
Well, it's a good question because one of the things I'll say is that if Howie had not signed those guys to extensions during the offseason, I think this would be a bigger issue than it is,
Yes.
right? I mean, if those guys were playing for contracts right now, I think it'd be a bigger issue even with 11 wins. Is it? I think there was a period of time this year where Devontae, his lack of targets was kind of bubbling there, and these are all. I mean, I'm not saying these are selfish guys, but these are prideful guys.
Right.
And when the passing game's not working, and you're that talented, it's not like we're talking about the 2020 wide receivers. It's not like we're talking about the 2021 wide receivers. Like, these are two Pro Bowl, all pro caliber guys. So is there a problem? I mean, look, I think when you win, it's a great deodorant. But if if they lose a game in the playoffs and the passing game looks like it did yesterday, then yeah, that's a problem. And I think that's why it's so important that this conversation is happening now, because even Jalen said, that it doesn't get you until it gets you. And I think that's a good way of putting it, because this conversation, the Eagles should hear this. Jalen Hurts should be having it. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, they shouldn't be sitting on their hands here. They should be. They should be using their hands, right? So I think there's like using their hands to catch the ball, right? So I think there's a lot here that it's good to have these conversations if you're the Eagles after a win, right? You would much rather that. But yeah, to answer your question succinctly, I don't think it's a problem now, but I think it's something that absolutely the antenna needs to be real high on this.
Yeah, dude, I agree with you. Thank God Howie signed them to the extension. Because look, it is about numbers. It is about getting yours. I mean, I don't think you're a diva if you're going, I want mine. I
Sure.
think that makes you, I want the ball. Same way a guy who's playing basketball. I want my shots. I want the ball in my hands. I want to create. That's what great players do. So I have no issues whatsoever. They just have to get that ironed out. I don't know how you do. I don't know, because I know that they've gone, they've made it so it's pretty easy, like the offense. I don't know why he's not seeing it. I mean, it's not like he hasn't seen it in the past, right? So I don't know why he's going through this stretch now where he really hasn't seen it. He's not seeing it right now. I don't know. But let's talk about the game as a whole. I do believe in letdown games, trap games, whatever you want to term them. When you go through an 8-game winning streak and then you're coming off a primetime game against the Rams, a 425, football day in America, right? Like those are big against the Ravens. Those are big games. And now you play Carolina, and just like Kansas City and just like some other teams did, you played down to your opponent. That's a very real thing.
Yes, it is a real thing. And you're not going every game by 2 touchdowns. And, the Panthers, to their credit, look, they played the Chiefs tough, right? And every time I'm watching the Chiefs on TV, they're in a close game and they're edging it out. So I get it. Now, that said, I didn't think the Eagles looked over the Panthers. I didn't know if yesterday was a letdown game. And I think that was part of the concerning thing is I think the Panthers just played them really tough, and I don't think the Eagles played well enough. And I think it's better for the Eagles if that was a letdown game. If it's just, look, they've had these emotionally charged games. You're at a 1:00 game at home, like you said, after that big Ravens win, after that big Rams win, and sometimes you're doing just enough to win. But the way I saw it yesterday is the Panthers played with them, and Bryce Young was making plays on that defense. The defense did not break, but they bent, right? That Panthers defense is not particularly good. The Eagles weren't moving the ball effectively enough against them. And so, yeah, I would say that it would help the Eagles' case more if that was a letdown game, because it's more of a
I don't know.
concern if you're playing
It's
to the
funny.
company.
Like, you're right. They played with them, but did they play with them? Why? Again, little things like not being buttoned up, just your head not being as far. It's hard to do that. I don't know. I mean, you might be right, and that's just how it played out. Defensively, obviously, Coop got cooked a little bit by Thielen. They didn't have the same kind of, they got bit a few times. I mean, let's face it, Leggett should have caught that ball, right?
Yeah.
That was a breakdown in the secondary. They're a little banged up back there with Blankenship. So, I don't know. I mean, it truly turned out to be bend but don't break. My only concern with the defense is, man, that front's playing so many snaps. I just hope it doesn't wear down. I mean, they're pretty thin.
Yeah, and I'm working on something. Excuse me, I'm working for something on PHLY.com for either later this week on next week on Jalen Carter. I spent some time speaking to him,
He's the best.
yeah, I mean he's playing a lot of snaps now. There's a lot he's doing behind the scenes conditioning wise, but this is relatively unprecedented for a defensive tackle to take that percentage of snaps. Now I know they pay more attention to the volume than the percentage. But you're absolutely right. That group is taking a lot. They don't have a lot of depth there. Vic Fangio pointed out that when he was in San Francisco, he had a year with only 3 edge rushers. But you are running the risk of those guys wearing down. I think we saw how much the safety depth was tested yesterday. I agree with you. I didn't think yesterday was one of the Gene's best games or better games. Now Thielen is a good player. They're taking advantage of that matchup. But I gotta say, when I watched that game live, and I haven't watched it all through yet. I have a Saquon story about to go up online that I've been working on this morning. But I would say, I was impressed quite a bit with Bryce Young. And Bryce Young showed me a lot yesterday in his ability to escape. There was a time, Josh Sweat, I thought had a real productive rush late in the game. Sweat was able to get away from him. You saw that Young was able to get away from him. You saw that a few times. And that, to me, sometimes you play quarterbacks like that, but you are correct. That
I mean,
that
real
Leggett
quick,
play that happened right
real
in front of
quick,
me. That Leggett play.
just off your
Yeah.
point, and I agree with you. I thought that Bryce Young's mobility and freelancing and whatever improvising really gave him some issues, but they were locked in against Lamar. Lamar is even better at that than Bryce Young, and they were completely focused and locked in, and that's where I just think there is a bit of a drop off. Where the way things look, like they were their game plan, they executed that game plan defensively against Lamar to the T, and they mushed him, they honed him, they kept him pent in. It was a great game plan, and they looked incredibly focused against Baltimore. I didn't think they were as disciplined and focused as they were yesterday.
You bring up a good point, and you bet, and you more than anyone know the psyche of these players. You've been around them for a long time, and I remember early on in my time in the beat, someone telling me like these aren't players playing football; these are people playing football, right? So there's definitely the human psychology that creeps in here. So yeah, you certainly have a point there. If that's the case, they need to pick it up next week. It's Pittsburgh's a better team than Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, ultimately they won. My biggest concern is, and we're going to get to Jim Salisbury coming up shortly, but my biggest concern is, all right, you got to get some sort of rhythm in the pass game. And, dude, what's up with Elliott?
It's a great question. I saw it last week in Baltimore with Justin Tucker, and I asked Nick 2 weeks ago now, where I said you're at a point in your coaching career where you have a lot of guys who've built equity with you, and how do you know that your confidence is not based on what you've seen in the past compared to what you are seeing right now in front of you? And I think this is a big question with Jake Elliott. He's not going anywhere. He's earned too much. He makes too much for there to be any type of change here. But he's 0 for 5 on kicks at 50+ yards. And the Eagles had a chance to make it to go from a 6-point game to a 9-point game. It would have been a 55-yard field goal, and Nick Sirianni decided to punt it. Now the punt worked; they pinned him back, but 6 and 9 points is considerably different in the fourth quarter of a football game. And now I know Nick said that the wind was in his face, and a few other reporters spoke to Jake after the game and said that the wind was a problem there. I do wonder though if in 2022 they're kicking that 55-yard field goal, they're making it a two-possession game with 6 minutes to go.
Definitely. Listen, I thought Nick played it exactly right. I would have done the same thing. And of course, you're going to use some wind, but as I do. It wasn't that windy there yesterday. It was what it was, right? Yeah. But you gotta somehow preserve the psyche of your kicker. That you just do. And by the way, you can't imperil the game by attempting a 55-yard field goal in that spot. Yeah, I would have punted too. And I thought Nick handled it correctly. I would have done that. Their biggest, they're going to figure out, do you stash somebody on the practice squad? I mean, because God forbid if it gets worse, in the playoffs, you're going to need them.
It would surprise me if they went in that direction. I think this is a situation where they hope that he can turn it around. Yeah, I mean, I've spent a lot of time around football. I don't know kicking well enough. I don't know the week to week variance. I don't know what or why it's going on. I know both kicks happened on the south end zone there. They passed up the kick on the north end zone. I can't tell you why that's happening, but I can tell you that you're going to need a kicker that you trust in January and February. That's like the theme of everything I've been saying, because when you're 11-2, that's the context that you view the season in.
Yeah, dude, I feel you in it. And listen, we have to end with this because you're working on a story, and I don't want to be. Listen, it's easy for us to skew negative. We're all worried about the playoffs, right? So that's why if people, we're talking about the quarterback in the passing game. Well, AJ freaked out, and you need the pass game in the playoffs. So that's kind of why the tenor is what it is today in Philadelphia. But let's not lose sight of Saquon Barkley setting the single season rushing record for the franchise. He is incredibly special. And what a day yesterday. Like, even like to be able to do it in this short period, it's unbelievable. You still got a quarter of the season left.
It's incredible. I think it's beyond what anyone could have anticipated. It's pretty cool about Saquon is that he's a historian of, he
Yeah.
really looks into the history of the position. When he got here, he looked up the Eagles record books. He did not know much about Wilbert Montgomery. He actually researched Wilbert Montgomery when he got here. He obviously knew LeSean McCoy and Brian Westbrook. He knew what the number was going into the season. The fact that he hit it this quickly, the fact that we're talking about Eric Dickerson's record, the fact that he broke Wilbert Montgomery's record for 100-yard games in a season in Eagles history, the fact that he had 100+ yards and like that didn't seem like a big deal. That's just the expectation now. This is a special season, and I don't think Saquon's slowing down.
Nah, I'm with you, brother. I'm with you. Zachariah, great work. We'll be watching and reading and the whole thing. 2:00 today.
Yeah, 2:00, Bo 9 studio. Looking forward to it.
You're the best, buddy. Thanks, Zachariah.
Talk to you guys soon. Yep.
Z-Burn checking in. All right. Big baseball week.
Yeah.
Winter meetings. And lots has happened. Right? Number one, Dick Allen. Richie Allen finally gets to Cooperstown. So well deserved.
Yeah, about time.
You're
I don't
right.
know what took so long.
I know.
I actually like Cobra got into him and Dave Parker. I'm
love
good with that.
Me too.
Yeah.
I was a Cobra fan too.
Yeah. He was cool.
Yeah, he was cool. I mean, those pirates
Yeah,
with that
the
hat
buckos.
and the hat,
Yeah.
like the black hat.
Yeah, with this.
What's that called? That hat? It stands
I
up.
used to have one of them too,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. It's a
Yeah.
style. What do they
Yeah.
call it though?
I don't know.
Whatever. But it's great. Dick Allen, and of course, the big news across Major League Baseball: seismic move by the Mets. So now we're going to have to deal with Soto in the division. Yes. So joining us, he's covering the winter meetings. He is the elite of the elite baseball men. Of course, our own Jim Salisbury. Jimmy Steaks.
What's up, guys? How are you?
Let's start with Dick Allen and the news. That Jimmy, awesome. That was it's good news for all Phillies fans.
It is great news. It's funny, Anthony. When I started covering the Phillies in 1994, the first story I did was on Dick Allen returning to the organization after a long absence. He returned as an ambassador.
Yeah.
And, last night to write about him getting into the Hall of Fame was special. It was special because I got to know him a little bit over the years. Not great, but, when he'd come around, you'd always have a chat with him and some kind words, and he'd crush your hand with that, those huge, strong mitts of his.
Monster paws.
Yeah, and, the last few years, he's had a lot of good people supporting him in his quest to get to the Hall of Fame. One of the former groundskeepers at the Vet, Mark Carfagno, John Middleton, John Middleton, who, will tell you that he became a fan as a kid in the 60s because listening to and watching Dick Allen hit balls over the roof at Connie Mack Stadium. He misses by one vote on one of the Veterans Committees in 14. He misses by one vote on one of the Veterans Committees in 21. He gets in by 2 votes this time. Long time coming. There were a lot of reasons it didn't happen sooner. It should have happened sooner. Honestly, it should have happened as a player on the BBWA ballot, the players' ballot there, after he retired. But he only got like 19% of the vote. He was viewed as a troublemaker, as a malcontent. He kind of fussed and feuded with teammates in the front office and fans, and he was booed in Philadelphia. And then he was traded away. He ended up coming back in the late 70s or mid to late 70s as sort of a mentor to Larry Bowa and Maddox and Lozinski and Schmidt, kind of as a different guy, more matured. But, I think
I'm sure. What a job.
As people have stepped back with fresh perspectives and sympathetic perspectives, we see a lot of the reasons maybe for some of his behaviors was that, he didn't take nothing from nobody, and he faced a lot of harsh racism in the minor leagues in Little Rock, Arkansas, places like that. He's talked about that. And some of that followed him to Philadelphia. He lashed out. Really,
and that's something like that we can't imagine.
no.
First of all, we can never imagine, that sort of dealing with that sort of thing. And then in this era, in 2024, like you go, what? Like this was not that long ago, and period.
Right.
And he had to deal with that, and that sort of thing stays. It haunts people, man. It's the truth. Like I'm so happy that all this stuff comes out, and he finally gets in. Because and again, it was before, he predates us, but going back and following it like we do, and I've written stories on him, it's such an important, I think, thing for this franchise and for him. And by the way, nobody hit a ball further. Like, he had a monster club that he swung.
Yeah, he used a big bat for most of his career. And he generated an awful lot of bat speed. He was a hell of an athlete. He was a great athlete. He had blinding athletic skills. That bat speed with that big bat. He hit balls off the roof at Connie Mack Stadium, over the roof at Connie Mack Stadium. But we talked about a lot of the racism that he endured and the tough environment he played in. It just makes his accomplishments on the field. It makes you appreciate him that much more, because to play these games at an elite level, you have to be in a good mindset. When you feel like the whole world is against you, it's really hard. It's troubling. It's distracting. And so for him to maintain being the player he was in that environment, it's really remarkable. I look at his career, 22 years old in 1964. Look at that season he had. He led the league in National League at 22 years old, led the National League in runs scored, led the National League in doubles, had a big slugging percentage, big batting average. He was a great player from day one. And then you look at his 1966 season when he finished fourth in the MVP voting. You're like, how didn't he win the MVP? He was, beaten out by Clemente and Koufax and I think Willie Mays. But look at his numbers in 1966 sometime. They are absolutely phenomenal. But there's no exact blueprint for Hall of Fame voting. There are guidelines, things they want you to consider. But one of the kind of I think criteria that has emerged over the last maybe few decades is, did the player dominate his era? Was he a dominant force in his era? And it's indisputable that Dick Allen indeed was a dominant force in his era. I've written about this so much over the years that I can almost recite it, from memory. From 64, the year he was a Rookie of the Year, to 74, that's 11 seasons. I would say it constitutes an era. He was a dominant player right there with Willie Mays and Hank Aaron, great Hall of Fame players. He was, in that 11-year span, second only to Hank Aaron in slugging percentage, second only to Hank Aaron in OPS. He was, trailed, and in terms of extra base hits, only Billy Williams, a Hall of Famer, and Hank Aaron had more in that 11-year span. And then when you kind of funnel it through modern analytical type perspectives, he's number one in that era in OPS plus. He's number one in that era in OPS. So he undeniably belongs in the Hall of Fame. It was held back for a long time because I think people didn't vote. They just voted on, against him for his reputation, and they held things against him that shouldn't have been held against him. Because it was a tough era that, like I said, that he played in. I'm just glad to see this wrong has been righted. I'm glad to see, his family can enjoy this. I'm happy for John Middleton, who really championed this. They retired his number. They kept him in the spotlight a long time, so people would realize how great he was. And the thing that saddens me is that he's not here to see it. He died 4 years ago. He saw his number get retired by the Phillies, but I'm glad his family gets to enjoy it. He deserves it, and goes in there with Dave Parker, another great player, and we'll see who gets in January.
Yeah, we were talking about the Cobra. The Cobra, Dave Parker. He was nasty.
Yeah.
All right. Soto. Seismic move yesterday.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money, Jimmy.
Oof. That's an awful lot of money. We thought Bryce Harper was a lot of money at $330 million. We thought a year ago Ohtani at $700 million. He got $65 more million than Ohtani, and it's really a lot more than that because with Ohtani's deferrals, that really takes down the present day value. There are no deferrals in this deal. I mean, Ohtani's present day value is under $500 million. This is $765 million strong. It can go to $800 million if he opts out after 5 years and they want to bump his salary up. It's an average annual value of $51 million. Could go to $55 million if he opts out, and if he leads him to a World Series or two and has an MVP award, you might see him do that. But it's an astounding amount of money. You can question whether it's good for the game, it's bad for the game. I mean, in the short term, it's bringing the game a lot of focus and a lot of buzz, and it tells you how much money is out there. And some of these owners there's a lot of money in the industry to begin with, and some of these owners are just incredibly deep-pocketed. They have, even more than that. And this is Cohen guy. He came in there promising a victory and promising a championship, and he's backing it up with his wallet. It doesn't always work. He got those pictures a few years ago, and they had to dig out from that. But this is a guy 26 years old in his prime that should get a lot of good years from him. And they went into Yankee Stadium and into Yankees playground and took one of their great players from them, where usually it's the Yankees that go out there and get the great player, the Reggie Jackson, Dave Winfield, Roger Clemens. We can go, over and over and over. Even Soto a year ago, but they went in and staked their claim to him. So
that's a big deal. Like we know from having worked up there, the Mets outdoing the Yankees is a huge deal.
No question. The Mets are going to have to get some pitching because it takes a full team, but they got a hell of a player. They're going to have a good lineup.
Man, Lindor. I mean, they're pretty scary lineup wise. I
just wonder how much Soto is going to miss Aaron Judge. I mean, that was like a Gehrig Ruth pairing, and they both benefit from each other in the lineup, and you're not going to have Aaron Judge behind you. And, Soto could end up seeing a lot of Barry Bonds treatment without Judge behind him. That would have been something I would have thought about if I was Soto, and I'm sure he did. I'm sure him and his handlers thought about it a lot. Because the Yankees were right there at 760, and it was just that they threw in an extra year, so the AAV was different. In the end, Anthony, it was kind of what we thought it would be. It turned out to be all about the money, and the Mets have the money, and they got the player.
All right, what about the Fightins? What are you hearing? You're down there in the Mecca, right? Like you're there in the middle of the all of it. What are you hearing?
What are you hearing at the bar late last night at the hotel, Jimmy? What's the bar talk saying down there?
I was not at the bar. I was up writing a Dick Allen story. They got to get to work. They got to get to work. And a lot of teams got to get to work here because Soto is cleared. Now you're seeing the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, the Dodgers, teams that had budgeted for him. They got a lot of money in their pocket. They can go out there and allocate that elsewhere. Phillies were not in on Soto, but they have a lot of work to do. And with the Soto logjam breaking and the logjam breaking elsewhere, I know they've been trying to do things, but they really need to get to work here with questions in the outfield, with questions at the back of the bullpen, with questions in rotation depth. I mean, some of the players that I believe would have been nice fits for them in the back of the bullpen, like Blake Trinan, Clay Holm, they have signed in recent days.
Clay Holmes could be a starter.
Yeah, he's with the Mets. And, I thought he would have been a nice and I think there was some interest there with the Phillies. Trinan, another guy I like. He's going back to the Dodgers, not all that surprising. Tyler O'Neill, left fielder, hits left-handed pitching, has signed with the Orioles. Those are three guys that I thought would have been fits for some of the things the Phillies are trying to do. But there remains trade possibilities at the back of the bullpens, free agent possibilities at the back of the bullpen. There are some free agent outfielders out there. With the Soto logjam breaking, I think the Phillies are eager to get to work, and I think a lot of teams are eager to get to work. So they got plenty of holes. I do expect some action here in Dallas. You never know. But the Phillies, 95 wins last year, second most in the majors. Heck of a season, but came up short of where they needed and wanted to go. And for a 95 win team, they have holes, and they need to get to work filling some of those holes. So keep our eyes open here in Dallas. I do expect them to be active.
Let me ask,
Wait, real quick. Crochet. Where's Crochet at?
He was a serious focus in July, which told you, they had a really good starting rotation, which told you that they were open to making a strength even stronger. And they made an offer, and it was, from what I hear, pretty attractive. I think their ears are still open on Crochet, and I think it's something they would consider. But I don't know that they can meet or they're going to be willing to meet the White Sox high price in prospects. But they remain, he remains a very interesting pitcher to them, and I definitely would not rule it out. I think they're willing to discuss some pretty good prospects, but maybe not the ones that the White Sox would be coveting. Andrew Painter's not going anywhere. They're going to be really protective of a guy like Aiden Miller. The rest of the guys they might talk about. It's certainly a name worth watching because, though they want to build starting pitching depth, I don't think they'd be against bringing in an elite arm, especially a left-handed arm now with Soto in the division. You can see him a whole bunch. But they got a lot of. They talk about being open-minded. You have to be open-minded to every possibility because you never know what's going to come down the road. You never know what's going to come down the road. Some things come out of nowhere, and you start thinking about it. And you're like, "Well, this wasn't really on our priority list, but it can help us. Let's shift some things around and make it happen."
I want to ask you guys. For me, at this point, the outfielder, there seems to be one answer for me. The Cubs are trying to get rid of Bellinger. He's not that expensive in today's market. He's got 2 years left at $25 million. He doesn't strike out a lot. He hits left-handed pitchers even though he's left. He's got some power. He can play first base, center field, left field. Is this something you guys would do?
Oh, I definitely would. I love Cody Bellinger. Great athlete, great athleticism. He can play center field. He's got 1 year left, but he's got, 2 player options, I think. So
yeah,
I thought he had one, but maybe 2.
Yeah.
I think there might be 2, but I'd have to look it up. I think it would be a possibility. Like I said, I think you have to consider everything. And the fact that he's been a really good offensive performer. I know he's tailed off a little bit since his Dodgers days, but I think he's young enough to rebound and he can help you in center field. I think that would be something they certainly would have to look at. I haven't heard a ton of buzz about him, but in their open-mindedness, it's a good name.
Yeah, I would.
It seems like reports of the Cubs are even willing to eat a little bit of the money.
Yeah. I mean, that won't be an issue with the Phillies when it comes to the prospects. Right. But let me ask you about Bohm. It feels like there's not a huge market out there. I guess Seattle was interested, Jimmy, and then the asking price got a little crazy. What are you hearing about Bohm?
Yeah, I mean, there was a reported asking price with them looking for number one starters. I don't know that that's true or not, but, they do have a wealth of pitching. Even some of their mid-rotation starters I'd have some interest in, because I think their mid-rotation guys are younger and could blossom into something. Because of their roster, a lot of, there's some age to guys. There's lengthy contracts, there's high prices, high salaries. Some of these guys are just immovable, and some of the guys you're just not going to move because they're core foundational pieces, but their contract status and their ages and their salaries make it difficult to move them. Boehmer's the one guy that's not tethered to a long-term contract. He's not that expensive. He's young enough where he's still getting better. There's value there. I think that's why their ears are very much open on him. A lot of talk about them souring on him because he showed a lot of frustration late in the season. I don't know if that is 100% true. I do think obviously I know he was benched that one game in the playoffs. So I think maybe some of the questions about frustration and whatnot, they can go away. He's a young player. I think he can get better. He can deal with that and grow from it. He had a bad hand down the stretch. I think he was frustrated and disappointed, but it's a complicated one. It's an interesting one. But they're not going to the problem is they're not going to give him away because he's a valuable player, but maybe viewed not as valuable throughout the industry as the Phillies think he is. Maybe he just stays put and comes back and he becomes one of those stories about, sometimes the best trades are the one you don't make.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot there. I think he's a good player. But maybe the industry doesn't view him as highly as the Phillies do. That's okay. He's your own. Work with him, make him better. Don't forget, he was one of your real key guys as you were building the best record in baseball over the first half of the season. Yeah. I still think he can be that guy, but I also think there's enough value there that he can bring back something. And if they think it can help fill a different hole and inch them forward, move them forward, then it's something they have to consider. So there are a lot of eyes on Alec Boehm here at the winter meetings. So we'll see what happens.
What's the guy, VJ?
Oh, I just with JT's getting up there in age a little bit, he had a tough year with injuries. They signed Garrett Stubb to like a split contract, so he's not guaranteed a roster spot. Do you see them? Like I'm seeing Gary Sanchez get signed by the Orioles as a backup, Travis d'Arnaud. Do you feel like the Phillies will make a move to upgrade backup catcher?
I think they could bring in some depth. I think if that possibility is there, they would investigate it. I wouldn't rule it out. Definitely think it's a possibility. I think it's needed. JT's north of 30. You're going to have to give him rest here and there. They do have Marchand. They do have Stubbs. Marchand is out of options. He would have to come with you on the big league team this year. Can't be sent to the minors. You'd likely lose him. There are teams that like Marchand. Maybe he's used in a trade. If he's used in a trade, then you're definitely going to have to go out there and bring in a backup catcher, or at least catching depth. You still have Stubbs. We'll see what happens there. So, but I think just because of their catching situation, Real Muto's high odometer reading, his age, Marchand's, the reality that he hasn't always been able to stay on the field. It's something they could look to build more depth in the backup catcher area. I don't think it's a priority item, but it's certainly something I think they wouldn't mind doing.
All right, Jimmy, great stuff as always. What's on the agenda today?
Well, the winter meetings just kind of pound the pavement, man. Pound the pavement, Dave.
I wish I was with you, man. I got the itch to be back in the field, man.
Dave
Writing
Dombrowski.
a story in the hotel room. I love it. Going down, sneaking down at the bar, seeing everybody.
Dave Dombrowski will, have a media update later on in the afternoon. It'll be actually close to such an early evening, and it's kind of like piecing a puzzle together. One team does one thing. How does it impact this team? What could the Phillies do? And you kind of frame it all around their needs. Like I said, they want to do something in the outfield, left field, center field. But, I would think maybe left field. And they want to, get some starting pitching depth and bullpen. They'd like to get a nice big arm at the back of the bullpen. There are a few out there. And open-minded. You never know what comes down the road at this time of year and can surprise you, and a team can shuffle their priorities in a heartbeat. So a lot of things are in flux, but I mean, the good news is the logjam has broken. Guys are starting to sign. Yeah, the Phillies start filling some of these needs pretty soon.
Let's go. Jimmy Stakes. We'll talk to you in the morning, buddy. We love you. Thanks, pal.
Okay. Hey, good being with you guys.
Always. Jim Salisbury, our insider. That's right. Every day, report from the winter meetings. So we'll get into that. Hey, let me tell you about some of our friends. Yes. The Bet Park Sportsbook online casino app. Here we go. The brain. He couldn't join us today. He likes the Bengals -5.5. Mike Gesicki over 25.5 receiving yards. And then, his crazy NBA bets that always win. Josh Hart under 1.5 steals. And Karl Anthony Towns under 0.5 steal. Only the brain would do that. But you can play it on the Bet Park Sportsbook online casino app. The Eagles right now 5, I think. Did you see it?
I think they're
5 over Pittsburgh on Sunday. All the good stuff. All the college football odds are up. Oh, I can't wait for the playoffs. I'm dying to talk about that too. The Bet Parks online sportsbook casino app is the best. All the score, right? All the props that you want, and of course the casino games, right? All the blackjack and the slots, hot online slots like Peaky Blinders and Rocky, all that good stuff. You can check it out. Bet Park Sportsbook online. It's the best. New customers, if you're down, the first 24 hours, you get up to $1,000 casino bonus back. You got to be, betparks.com has all the details. You got to be 21. You got to be in PA, New Jersey, Maryland, Ohio, Michigan. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Saul Brad, I can't be here. He posted on Instagram. He was at a fundraiser at Mar-a-Lago this weekend.
Oh, the brain.
Hey, man, you know what the brain's got? He's got crazy good picks, and he's got good flooring in his house. If you want good flooring in your house, give a shout out to our friends over at Empire Today. Empire Today, with them, you get some shop-at-home convenience. You get the right product for your needs, quick professional installation, and a price match guarantee. It's the best place today to get new flooring because, they do high-quality products at decent prices. They have copycats out there, but they can't beat Empire Today on quality, service, speed. So they advertise low-quality products that Empire just will not carry. So you don't have to worry about any flooring that they install falling apart in a couple of years because it's nothing but high-quality stuff. When you talk to them, all they do is flooring. It's not like going to Home Depot or Lowe's where the person you're talking to in flooring might be doing plumbing yesterday and electrical tomorrow. And they have a cool thing, their shop-at-home service. They bring the samples out to you so you can see what it looks like in your home, in your lighting, matching up with your decor. Cool stuff. So schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive $350 off when they use the promo code PHLY. Restrictions do apply. See EmpireToday.com/PHLY for more details. Our friends over at Empire
Today. This portion of the program brought to you by TrueMark Financial Credit Union. TrueMark.com/PHLY to see the credit union difference. All right, now I can't wait to talk to him because let's go back to the birds and let's see what this man saw. Our man, Franny Films, our buddy Fran Duffy, who is, I love talking to him each week, dissecting what we just saw. Franny.
What's up, Ant? What's up, VG? How's it going this morning?
What's up?
Good, buddy. Obviously, everybody's reacting to the A.J. Brown story and the lack of the passing game and Jalen's issues. But, they won. Saquon sets the single season all-time record, which was awesome. What's your takeaway? 50,000 feet.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to start with the pass game, right? Just because look, this is the most important thing that's got to get corrected going into the postseason. And, I know that right away, fans react a certain kind of way when you get into this topic, right? It's either, Jalen Hurts is the worst. You're never going to win with this guy. You got to bench him. They got to move on. Or it's everybody else's fault. It's okay to say that, look, getting the win was important. The quarterback did not play well. There are things that have to get corrected by the time they get into the postseason and play superior opponents. And look, it's not a media-driven narrative. This isn't like, we're just sitting here making stuff up. AJ Brown's upset. Devontae Smith's upset. The locker room, they're not in there saying, oh, man, look, it's tough to get a win in the NFL today, right? Those guys were upset in that post-game locker room yesterday. And so, and you would point to the fact that it wasn't because Saquon Barkley averaged 6.2 yards a carry yesterday. It was because the quarterback averaged 5.2 yards per attempt yesterday. So I think when you look at it, this is an issue that's got to get corrected, certainly going into the postseason.
Yeah, no, dude, it's so funny because having done this for a long time, there are certain figures that become like really polarizing.
Yeah.
Allen, like Iverson was, Donovan was, Andy Reid was, right? So typically you're betting Embiid is,
Eric Lindros,
right? Look at the current landscape, right? That's how it is. And Jalen is a very polarizing athlete in town. He's got staunch defenders and hypercritics. But the truth of the matter is, I agree with you. I did not see. Here's the thing. When he's playing point guard and he's getting the ball down the field to AJ here and there, right? He's taking off and he's getting 4 or 5 yards on the first to get a first down. All that stuff's great, right? Taking care of the football. Like, I don't need him to throw for 350, right? But yesterday, we saw the worst of him, which is not managing the game and not managing the game correctly. Taking the delay of game penalty. Taking sacks. Like, dude, you got plenty of time, right, to do something with the football, even if it's thrown away. He has to eliminate that first.
Yeah, I mean, look, he was pressured 9 times yesterday, and it resulted in 4 sacks. 9 pressures and 4 sacks. Look on the other side, Bryce Young was pressured 30 times, 1 sack. Right, I mean that's just a huge. You're both ends of the spectrum there when you talk about that chasm of difference between the way that both quarterbacks played. And I just think, look, when you look at Jalen Hurts, we know like this is the area that he's got to get better in. This was the 4th time in a game this season where over 22% of his throws, the average time to throw was over 4 seconds. Right, I mean that's extremely high number. And when you look at it, only two quarterbacks in the NFL this season have had 2 of those games, and Jalen's had 4, right? So, and 2 of those quarterbacks were Bo Nix, a rookie, and Justin Fields, who only played a handful of games, right? So I think when you look at it right now, we know that Jalen Hurts, he's able to make those plays outside of structure. We saw the one on the Devontae Smith 27-yarder on 3rd and long yesterday in the second quarter. We know he can make those plays. We know he can make any throw. But you got to cut out, as you mentioned, the sacks, they've been an issue all year. He's invited pressure all year just because of what is indecisive play at times in the pocket. And then it's just the decision-making. Because, look, and I posted a couple clips already today, and so I've already had the back and forth with fans already. Some people say, oh, well, you're saying that sometimes he's too fast for the reads, but then he holds on sometimes and he's too long. You can't make anybody happy. When quarterbacks are going through this, when they're going through those issues with processing those reads, that's typically how it goes. Sometimes you're holding on to it too long, and sometimes you're getting through the reads too fast. Yeah. You got to find that. You got to find that middle ground. And so on the very first drop back of the game yesterday, he had AJ Brown on a deep corner route. That ball's going for 60 yards. AJ might walk into the end zone for a touchdown, but instead he got off of it too fast. He's reading the corner, JC Horn, and at the time he gets his eyes over to the check down to Jahan Dotson. Yeah, like JC Horn looks like he's even with it, but the pocket's pristine at that point. There was no reason for him to rush to get over to that check down. There was no reason for that. And so if he holds it for a beat longer, he sees that JC Horn is going to abandon his assignment and step up to Devontae Smith, and AJ is going to break wide open. And so that's just an example of a one play example. And you can say, oh, well, all right, that's one play. But it's an example of why A.J. Brown's frustrated. It's an example of why the receivers and the offensive line, they all want the pass game to be operating. And by the way, that's not just the players in the field. That's the coaches, that's the ownership. You want the pass game to be operating at a high level going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it's right to be honest and just look at it and go, all right. The truth of the matter is he's never had the best pocket presence. Even in 2022, they didn't blitz him in 2022. They were afraid of the Eagles RPO game. And if you realize, he had lots of time, he had gaping windows and lots of time to throw the football. Then that all changed when, they go to Tampa and, our Temple Todd, when Bowles changed it up and just started, here it is. and just started pressuring him, and things started to change. The defenses started to change the way they defended him, and that's kind of been this whole thing since then. It's the processing. Like, he's got to work on that. I think that's his biggest issue. Forget it. Like, he's got, his arm is fine. He's got to be able to process things quicker.
Yeah, and look, we've seen quarterbacks go through these issues, right? And some guys get through it faster than others.
Yeah.
Some guys never get through it, and sometimes it might be like, hey, we're going to improve a little bit, but it's still going to be an inconsistency. I think when you look at it right now, they just have to be able to find ways to be able to get him out of this. Right now, their answer seems to be, we are going to like super streamline this pass game. And it's going to be, and we talked about it last week after a huge win against the Baltimore Ravens, where it's a ton of play action, it's a ton of RPOs. There were only a handful of dropbacks in that game where none of that was tagged to it, and it was just a straight dropback. And what did we say last week? Hey, on those 4 or 5 plays, can Jalen make 2 or 3 of those throws to get them out of it? It's 3rd and 7 last week against Baltimore. Crunch time, one score game in the second half. 3rd and 7, he drops back, he hits Dallas Goedert for 9 yards. Like, can you make those plays consistently enough to keep defenses honest, to keep them on their toes, to make sure that they have to respect everything that goes along with the drop back pass game? If you can't, and you become one-dimensional, if a team you get into the postseason and a team gets you off your game in the run game, maybe the run game's not hitting to the way that you would expect, especially in the first half, and teams can jump on you, that's when it's going to make you pay. You're not always going to go up against Bryce Young and Xavier Leggett and Adam Thielen. You're not always going to, and this defense, by the way, like, this performance came against the defense that was arguably, the worst against the pass all season long. They were missing their top pass rusher in Jadeveon Clowney, right? You're missing all this talent on that side of the football. To have that performance against that unit, that's what makes it also that it's really tough to swallow.
Well, here's the problem too. And if we're going to be honest about it, we haven't seen the pass game really click really during the winning streak. Like, he's played well, right? He's protected the ball. He's made some throws, but we haven't seen where the pass game is moving up and down the field. Like, everybody knows what that looks like. It doesn't need to be Buffalo and the Rams, right? Like, that's the extraordinary. But the normal pass offense that we see, we haven't seen that during the win streak.
Yeah, honestly, the only game I can think of where I would point to and say, like, this is where, this is what you want it to look like, was that Cincinnati game, going up against Joe Burrow. But again, that was against a defense that you would expect that to happen against, right? That Cincinnati defense can't stop anything right now, and it has only gotten worse since that point. But that's honestly, like, coming into yesterday, that was the kind of performance I expected going up against this Panthers outfit. I would expect them to be able to throw the ball at will, to be able to run the ball at will. And the latter did work. I mean, like I mentioned, Saquon ran for 6.2 a carry, and everything looked easy for them with the rushing game. And just talking with people since then, it's like, oh, they need to lean into the run more. There's only so far they can lean into that. Right? They've already become.
I mean, they've already committed to it. Like, and I think yesterday, they wanted to establish some rhythm within the pass game yesterday. And I know that you talk about streamlining it. They have streamlined this thing, where it's pretty easy to drive, right? He's in a funk. I mean, you could see the hesitancy, and there is a fear of turning the ball over, or he's trying to be overprotective of the football, which is admirable, but you got to snap out of that.
Yeah, and honestly, it's no different than Bryce Harper goes 1 for 18 or something like that. Ryan Howard has a bunch of strikeouts over a 5-game stretch. Like, you have to work through it. Yeah. What can the staff do to try and work through it? Obviously, football's a little bit different than those other sports just because of the how important each game is. But the staff, their answer right now, we're going to lean on the run game. We're going to streamline the pass game. I agree with you. This was an opportunity yesterday for them to try and build some confidence. I think they tried to do that. Again, that first drop back of the game, they came out, they ran Saquon Barkley on the first play, and then they mirrored it with a play action concept on the very next snap and said, all right, we're going to try and go deep ball to AJ. If that's not there, you're going to have Devontae coming across the middle of the field for a nice chunk gain, and Dotson is the check down underneath. You're working deep to short that way, and that deep route's going to be there. If he stands tall in the pocket for just a blink, for another half a beat, he's going to see that AJ is going to break open, but was just a bit too fast there on that read.
Interesting. I'm just looking at some next gen stats. Hertz averages 3.12 seconds time to throw, which is second most in football right now. The Steelers, I think, as of last week, ranked like fourth. They're causing people to throw the ball like 2.6 seconds. That could be a problem. It's almost a whole second quicker. He's got to make a decision and get the ball out.
Yeah, and I think that the average time to throw number is sometimes can be to me, like I look at that as like a descriptor, right, of a pass game and say like, okay, like this is the kind of, because sometimes what you'll see is a lot of the quarterbacks that run a ton of play action will be high up on that list. Jared Goff typically can be a little bit higher on that list in years past, where it's a lot of play action, roll the pocket. Those plays are a little bit slower developing. To me, Greg, the big thing from yesterday was that, and I have the number right in front of me. This was I believe his slowest time to throw. Yeah, this was his slowest time to throw of the season, just under 3.5 seconds in this game. But it was also his lowest average air yards per attempt. So you're holding the ball long, but you're not pushing it down the field. That's typically a combination that's reserved for like young quarterbacks that aren't seeing the field great, right? And so that to me, like that's when you look at the combination of those two numbers, that's what's most startling to me with Jalen from that performance. And again, when you factor that with the sacks that he took, right? I mean, the average time to pressure yesterday, he was pressured 9 times, like I mentioned. It was 3.3 seconds average time to pressure. That was the slowest of any quarterback in the game, or in the action yesterday in week 14. And so when you look at all of these different things, it just kind of paints that picture of how he's just not seeing things clearly right now, and he's going to they have to find ways to help him work through that.
Yeah, I'm with it, because listen, this whole thing's about making a run, a Super Bowl run, and those teams in the North are going to stress you. Right? Like, we know about Detroit. Green Bay has an offense. Minnesota has an offense, right? Like those receivers, I don't know how, we'll get to the defense in a minute, but at some point you expect those other teams to score, and you're going to have to match scores. And what they're going to do is they're going to load up and they're going to sell out against the run. And they're going to force you, these are playoff teams now, and force you to throw the ball.
Yeah, and that's why this is so important for them to get fixed. And look, they're going to have opportunities here to get it fixed. Against Pittsburgh, that's a really tough defense they're going to be going up against this week. But after that, it's Washington, it's the Giants, it's Dallas. Like these are games where against those defenses, you should be able to put in the work required. Now, you have to also have that alongside with trying to get Saquon some added rest. We saw them try and do that yesterday. They mixed in Kenny Gainwell more often early in the first half. He had 5 or 6 touches in the first half of the game, and I think that was purposeful. Hey, you know what? Like we have to try and find some of these snaps for Saquon, because we did not see that last week against Baltimore. My guess is here against Pittsburgh, even though this game ultimately does not mean a ton for the Eagles in terms of the overall standings and the seeding in the NFC, I think ultimately they're going to try and go out and win this football game against Mike Tomlin. But I think this is a group now offensively. You want to make sure that things are looking better than what they currently are as they go into the playoffs.
Well, you still got Detroit. You're still chasing that 1 seed, so which I think is imperative. They have Buffalo. You got Pittsburgh, kind of similar. Hey, let's talk about the defense yesterday, because it was not a great performance. It was more of a bend but don't break. Obviously, if Leggett makes the catch at the end, which he should have, it's a touchdown. What did you see from the back end?
Yeah, I'm still going through the film from the defensive side, but I can tell you just from watching it yesterday and just kind of going through some of the numbers last night, I think when you're looking at this defense, I mentioned the one number already, 30 pressures, great. 1 sack off 30 pressures, not ideal, right? You want to be able to finish off of some of those plays. Now, Bryce Young has been really good at avoiding sacks over these last few weeks. That's been one of the things that he's improved at most since he's come back into the lineup. And so, you want to give a tip of the cap there to the former number 1 pick. And he made some big time throws outside of structure in this game. He layered throws over the top of defenders and underneath the safety. Look, I think when you look on the back end, Adam Thielen is a veteran receiver. He's been doing this at a high level for a long time. Doesn't run as well as he used to, but can still run routes as well as anybody and can catch the football as well as anybody. So he routed up Cooper DeJean on a couple. There was the double move there in the second half where he got him. He was a reliable target for them on money downs in this game. And they were this close. I mean, literally like inches away from being down with 40 seconds left and a couple timeouts. If Xavier Leggett holds onto that ball, which to me, that looked like it was a version of single high cover 3 where CJ Gardner-Johnson had his eyes to the right and they came at him from his left. Darius Slay is playing to his help in that situation. Again, I want to go back through the film to confirm that, but that's what it looked like watching it live. And I think when, that's a throw where Bryce Young makes a money throw. That's a nails throw from Young. He basically made that similar throw on a game-winning touchdown a couple weeks ago, and he was able to make it there. Leggett just couldn't come through for him on the back end.
Yep. Up front, my only concern up front, a lot of snaps. They're thin, and just wearing down is my biggest concern. Carter, again, and I didn't go through the film yet either, but Carter just flashes again. He's just such a dominant player. It just concerns me that front is playing a lot of snaps.
Yeah, Carter had 4 pressures in the first quarter yesterday. Just like it was just a bat out of hell in the way that he came off the bus yesterday. But I think when you're looking at that defense up front, the biggest concern for me, outside of the missed opportunities from a sack standpoint, too often in this game against Carolina, because when you look at the final stat line, Chuba Hubbard, he averaged just over 3 yards a carry. Like, it's not like he killed you,
right?
But to me, it was very similar. Remember the game that kept the Eagles from going undefeated back in 2022 against Washington, where Brian Robinson, it was a primetime game. Was it Monday night or Thursday night football, where the run game it was kind of a war of attrition there, and it was like 3 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, 4 yards, 3 yards. That's kind of how this was yesterday, where they allowed Carolina to stay on schedule, and too often you had 3rd and 5, 2nd and 4, 3rd and 3, and that allowed things them to stay balanced from a play calling standpoint on those 2nd and manageables, on those 3rd and manageables, and that's how they were able to sustain those drives. When the Eagles were able to stop the run at a higher rate on early downs, that made them more predictable and allowed them to get off the field a little bit better until that final drive when Young was able to force his way down the field with some miraculous throws. But to me, that was the big thing yesterday. Too often, you saw Hubbard go for like 4, 5, 6 on first down, and that made things a little bit easier for them when they got to 2nd and 3rd down.
I know. I know.
Is that how's Tristan McCollum playing? Does he play into that at all in supporting the run? Was he a problem with and pass defense from you watching the game? How do you think he's been playing?
Yeah, I think that, look, obviously he's not as good as Reed is, right, in terms of, reading and reacting things and seeing things as they come. He's an explosive athlete. He can fly around and find the football. So he's probably got a little bit more juice than Reed does, but Reed can play faster just because of how he sees things and processes things. And so I would say that that's probably the biggest difference there. I'll be able to tell once I go through the film if McCollum was an issue, but to me, it just felt like they kind of gave up the edge a little bit more than they would have liked to in this game against those tackles.
Fran, what do you do about Elliott?
Honestly, you got to let him keep working through it. And that's what we talked about this in the postgame show yesterday. Bo and I both felt that they should have tried to kick the field goal in that 4th down late in the game. It was 4th and 8 rather than punt back to Carolina, because it's one of two things, right? By not kicking the field goal there. And look, I wasn't there, so I can't speak to like what the wind was and how that impacted the decision-making right late in the game. But what I would say is by not kicking the field goal there, you're already showing like, all right, we don't have confidence, in Elliott in that moment. So to me, let him kick it and see if he's going to make. I know he's 0 on 50-plus yard field goals so far this year, but if he misses, you've got a short field. You want to trust your defense to try and get that stop. Trust your defense to try and get that stop on a shorter field. Give yourself a little bit of time in case they do score. Now you've got more time on the clock to try and see if you can get down there. The only thing you can do is just let him continue to work his way through it. You know what Jake Elliott can be. Obviously, he's going through an issue right now on some of these longer kicks. He missed an extra point yesterday that came back. So I think overall, you're looking at this group and saying, all right, they've got some things to work on here in the next few weeks.
It's interesting because I was on the opposite. I wanted them to punt. Like
you and Jamie felt the same way.
Yeah, and here's why. Like, and I hear what you're saying. You already got a guy that's got issues, right? And now you're going to put it back 55, knowing that he's got issues. You would completely imperil the game. And, I mean, he misses another one. How do you dig him out of that? So I'm almost preserving him and preserving the game. I get what you're saying. It's a great argument because you could, either way. But
yep.
I still have the out, right? Nah, Jake, man, we got all the confidence in the world in you. A little wind, even though we know it wasn't. A little wind, whatever. It's better off punting, the whole thing. I got it now. He kicks it and he misses badly like he did. I'm still nervous about the guy.
And that's why, honestly, like that's when it comes down to like the relationships the coaches have. You look at Tyler Brown, who works for the Kickers, Michael Clay, obviously the special teams coordinator, and say, all right, like how would another miss affect him? How much does, you know what I mean? Like, and that's where those kind of discussions certainly are had, not just in game, but in the week leading up.
Hey, well, I got you. Oh, did you watch some college football this weekend?
Yeah, I took some of that action in. I honestly, so I watched the SEC title. So I watched Georgia, Texas, and then watched the ACC game. I focused in on Clemson, SMU, just because of what how that impacted the rest of the rest of the field. So I didn't take in Penn State and Oregon until yesterday morning. I watched the Penn State defense on film against Oregon's offense. But a lot certainly to take away. And obviously we got the final bracket here yesterday.
I know the Notre Dame got a tough. They got a tough. I thought they got slighted a bit. I thought they should have been one spot higher.
Yeah, I was interested to see what the seeding would ultimately look like, and there was going to be some moving parts there just because of how Saturday played out. But I think, look, Alabama being out, I think was the right call by the committee. I think that just because that would have set a bad precedent for teams like an SMU, going in and trying to say, all right, like how worthy is it to play in a conference title game if that's what got us out of kicked us out of this bracket. So I was glad that they made the right decision there, in my opinion. But yeah, Notre Dame, I thought that they might be able to sneak into one of those bye slots. I feel like that would be one correction I would make moving forward, is that it's not just the conference champions that get those first few slots, because honestly, it makes if you're the number one team, if you're Oregon, you love that it's Arizona State that's got that, because now that's an easier path. Arizona State being your potential next game, your second game, that's a great path to success there for the Ducks.
Yep, I'm with you. They need to tweak that. That's the only thing that I think you need to tweak. You know what the shame is? I give Penn State a ton of credit for staying in the game. Like they stayed in, they battled.
Yep.
That game could have got out of hand a couple of times, and they kept coming back on them. And if they just had one more outside explosive player, they win. I believe that.
I was texting with people on Saturday and then even yesterday in the morning, and a lot of people felt like, Penn State was trying to was honestly like playing to keep it close. And if that were the case, honestly, like the national narrative coming out of that was that it worked, because it felt like a lot of people were saying, hey, you know what? Like Penn State played Oregon really tough. Yeah, that's a moral victory there for the Nittany Lions. I agree with you. They just need one guy on the outside to be able to step up and make those plays for them. But they ran the hell out of the ball. That defense was flying around. We know what Abdul Carter can be. He's only gotten better as the season has progressed.
He's sick. Yeah, Abdul Carter is ridiculous. He's a true number 11, man. He really is. He's ridiculous. The issue, though, again, just looking at the whole thing, is big game, and you just always come up short, man. It's that's a problem. Hey, what'd you think of the quarterback? Ewers, man, he was awful. I'll tell you, they should not have won. The Texas should have won that game. Like, that's embarrassing that you lost that game.
Texas, I struggle, man, because look, they've only lost to one team. They lost to Georgia twice, and they haven't beaten anybody either. When you look at that schedule, who they've beaten. So I think when you're looking at Texas right now, honestly, and looking at Ewers, I know a lot of people feel like, oh, he's going to come out, Arch Manning's going to step in, he's going to be the starter. It's not just two options for Quinn Ewers. I've said, for the last few weeks now, I really feel like he should be, if he's not welcome back, if they really want Arch to be that quarterback next year, which would make sense for them. Dude, go start at Oregon next year. Go start at Florida State. Go start at Ole Miss. Go start at any of those schools next year. You've got the portal at your disposal. He should absolutely take advantage of that, because he clearly needs another year of development.
He does. He needs another year. He does. Yeah. Who do you like right now? It's tough.
Dude, it is tough. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think you ultimately have the most trust because of what they've done. The most trust in Oregon. I mentioned I feel like they have an easy path when you look at that side of that part of the bracket, but I don't. It's not like that's a runaway pick. Georgia. I mean, that defense comes to play. They're battle tested. They played a hell of a schedule. They played a lot of tough teams. Do you have trust in Carson Beck? Obviously, he's coming off the injury now. What is he going to look like?
They
He's
need
played
explosive
better
players.
down the
Like they
stretch.
miss Bowers, they miss McConkey, right? Like they do too. I just think it's funny, and I'm not in love with Oregon's defense.
Yeah, I agree. Penn State. I mean, look, Penn State moved the ball up and down the field on that group, on Saturday, and so that's why I'm most excited about this field because I really have no idea. I don't have like a really strong feeling as to who's going to come away with it. It's going to be a fun first expanded playoff.
Yeah, it's cool. Franny, great stuff as always, buddy. Appreciate it, brother.
Appreciate it, guys.
There
We'll
he
talk.
is. Franny Films, our man, Fran Duffy. I love talking football.
You and your Notre Dame stuff. Come on.
Well, no, I listen.
A bye? They haven't played anybody.
No, I wanted them to hire one tick higher seed. They got a tough thing. Indiana's tough.
That's what you get when you beat Army and Navy or your big wins.
Dude, they play a tough schedule every year. Your first season following college football.
Yeah, now I'm understanding. They're all hype. They're frauds. They're frauds. I look at the schedule. Like nobody ranked.
You're the best.
Louisville. Come on.
You're the best. I love you. All right. Time now to talk about some of our friends. Go ahead, buddy.
All right. It's time to talk about TrueMark and this green light app and account they got going on for children. Because, you don't want your children to be raised and have no idea what they're doing with finances and checkbooks and checking accounts and saving accounts like I was clueless. So TrueMark's there to help you out.
Still am.
Yeah, right? TrueMark's got the ultimate playbook for teaching financial responsibilities with their green light account. The Green Light account comes with an app, and it's changing the game, helping kids and teens learn how to earn, save, and spend wisely. You can set up savings goals. You can track their spending, and you can even give them an allowance all through it right there in the app. And the really cool part is each kid gets a debit card, and it's got a limit, so you can control it from the app, how much they can spend. You have total control, so they're not going to go crazy and buy like 3 PlayStation 5s. You get peace of mind. They get the freedom to make smart decisions, and it's like coaching your kid through their very own financial game. And for TrueMark Financial members, this app and program is totally free. With the holidays right around the corner, now's the perfect time to introduce your kids to this Greenlight program. Get signed up today. Visit TrueMark.com/Greenlight for more information.
All right, now let's talk about Parks Casino, Street Road Bend, Salem. All roads lead to Parks this holiday season. That's right. All roads. Let me tell you about all the fun stuff that you got all over the place. You name it. Street Road Bend, Salem. Here's what's happening. January 17th in the Excite Center.
Oh,
Some of the greatest acts, comedians, musical acts. Here you go. Comedian Jessica Kirson. January 18th, the reggae sounds of Shaggy.
Yeah, you're my angel. You're my darling, baby. Closer than my dreams.
How about January 24th? Actor Richard Kind.
Hey, whoa, Larry. Hey, what's going on, Larry?
That's exactly what he does, too.
That's all Andrew. I would have no idea if it wasn't for Andrew with that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's pretty good. How about February 8th, Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains?
If I could you.
There you go. March 8th, magician Michael Carbonaro.
Whoa, I had the King of Hearts.
The King of Hearts. Comedian Ron White, March 21st.
Can't fix stupid.
Country star Lee Brice, March 22nd.
Oh, there's a rumor going around about me and you.
There you go. Enjoy dinner and drinks for the show. Liberty Bell Gastropub, the Parks Grill Steakhouse, the Bamboo Noodle House. It's a mecca of fun and all the games and the casino. It's a blast. Parks Casino, parkscasino.com to buy tickets for all shows. Parks Casino, this is how you win. You got to be 21. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, couple things, and then we're going to go relive the game a little bit. Shall we?
Yeah, it's
All
a
right.
big win.
All right, couple things, though. First, around the NFL. Yesterday, the game of the day, of course, was the Rams and Bills.
Wow. Great game. Fun.
I mean, back and forth.
Yeah.
You kept thinking that Buffalo was going to steal it at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Puka. Man, big game.
It's amazing how the Eagles shut that team down just a couple weeks
For sure,
ago.
yeah.
Right?
Really impressive.
Because Buffalo's defense is good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the one thing. And the Chiefs win again last night. They should have lost again. It's unbelievable how they just continue to win.
12 lives they got this year.
They're going to be the number 1 overall seed again.
You think?
Yeah, it's already done. Just about. It's ridiculous.
They're winning ugly, man. Real ugly.
But they win with defense, man.
Yeah.
Vikings put up a 42 spot.
I don't know how, but he had 4 touchdowns yesterday.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins,
Addison was ridiculous. And so was Jefferson, to be true.
They just have to move on from Kirk Cousins at this point, right? He's got no touchdowns in
Atlanta.
7, 8 interceptions the last
if I'm
2
Atlanta,
games.
I go Penix.
And
I'm
everyone
going Penix.
laughed at them when they made that draft pick.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
I don't know why you signed Cousins, though.
I don't either.
That was coming off the Achilles. Arizona dead.
Yep.
Arizona loses to Seattle at home.
Your boy Gannon, done. Paves the way, right? They lost. Eagles it clinched.
Yeah. And then
what was Kyler Murray looking at some of those interceptions? They're bad, cuz.
I know. Horrible.
Terrible.
Really, you're right on, JP. JP doing a fabulous job. Andrew sick today. JP comes in.
Don't miss a beat.
You are doing a killer job, buddy.
Next man up, cuz. You know how it is.
That's why you are, man. I love it.
I want to cover that Jags-Titans game? 10-6?
No, it's not. Poor Doug. Although he won. And then the Niners are able to come and beat the Bears. Maybe that's good because the Lions still have to go to San Fran.
Yeah. That Garendo, he's getting an MRI today. He might have a sprain. If he's got a sprained foot or whatever.
I know, dude.
It's like they'll be 4 deep.
I mean, it's amazing that you lose McCaffrey, you lose Mason.
Yeah.
Now you lose Garendo.
Wow.
It's wild. All right. Now let's do our Monday playback where we take a look at the birds. This will be our Rite Aid back in the day moment, which is yesterday.
I like it, man, because, my memory's not good. Yesterday I can remember.
Yeah, well, what turned out to be, a no gummy game?
Yeah, it pretty much was. I was like, eh.
It was? Because it turned out to be...
it was close, but it never felt like they were going to lose. It just felt ugly.
Yeah, it felt ugly. I agree with it. Yeah. Although until the play at the end where I went, uh-oh. They could actually lose this game.
Let me ask you this before you do this real quick. We have Beaston88 in the chat. It's a Pittsburghian, a burger.
Oh, yeah.
A Yinzer.
Yeah, Yinzer. He's actually suggesting it should be Eagles-Steelers every year for a rivalry game.
I love it.
Right?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I love it. I would love to get Steelers-Eagles rivalry going.
Yeah.
That needs to be. There's no reason why it can't be Mets, Yankees, ALML. I know it's the same city.
Yeah.
It's the state, and there's a lot of miles between them. I love it.
2 great fan bases.
Great fan bases. Yeah. Great organizations.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think they should. That's a great idea. Let's go to the playback. We're going to start off. Here's Devontae. He's coming back and
probably think he's having a big day coming.
Hey, Jalen, look. There's that guy, number 6.
Yeah.
You got 2 of those guys down the throat, too.
I was thinking it's an easy 100-yard game today for me. Let's go.
And here's Jalen getting him ready.
Hey, real simple today, man. Real simple today. Ask me what you want, and I'll tell you how to go get it. Yep. It's going to take all of us tonight. It's going to take all of us one play at a time, one moment at a time. Trusting each other, playing as a team. Let's go dominate, man. Let's dominate. Dominate on 3, 1, 2, 3. Dominate.
Yeah. All right, buddy.
They go, AJ's like, all of us? You made me too? Yeah, I'm in on this.
All right. How about the CJGJ?
Oh, man.
Ooh.
I mean, Tony Roma's famous for ribs. Holy moly. CJ Carter-Johnson. Are you more of a Chili's baby back ribs? And wham! Thielens covered up inside. And wham! I mean, Tony Roma's
face. Think of Sanchez yesterday during the game.
He's not great.
The Sanchezer. All right. This is a big one. The first quarter, Zach Bond.
He really finds the gaps, man.
Yeah, he does find the gap. I love that Zach Bond. And then CJGJ.
I have
Yeah, let it breathe. And then, all right. So here you go. Devontae comes back like we said. Now here it is. He gets a touchdown. Good throw.
That was an easier throw. It seemed like it. Right? I mean, if you're going
The difficult
if you're
throw is
worried
that.
about the interception, I think that seemed like a harder throw than the.
It's hurt. There he is. Right there.
Yeah, right.
It's a blitz. It gets picked up. It's a throw.
Like you get the touchdown.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I'm,
we're good. We're good.
I'm
Yeah,
trying to make it decent. All right, this is at the goal line. CJGJ had a big game, right?
Yep.
Ojabo. They're at the stop, big goal line stop. Dave, I love this. Calcaterra got his first touchdown.
You see the video of his brother?
Yeah.
Oh, here's cool. I was reading about this spot in Portland.
Portland, Oregon?
Yeah, it's pretty sweet, man.
I love that. Great Eagles thing. That's fantastic, man.
It's like a Philly guy moved out there, couldn't find any place to watch games with, opened up his own bar.
Yeah.
And now he's got a whole family, community of Philadelphians that living out in Portland now.
There's so many of these bars. I want to do the tour.
I would love that.
And
They're
we
really
go
cool.
around the country to the bar tour, the Philadelphia bar tour, and end in London.
And they always are so
At
happy.
Passyunk Avenue.
Phenomenal.
They're always so happy when they see Philadelphians, cause it's the best thing ever.
I like this place. This place has, forget what it's called. It's got an indoor and outdoor, but indoor is limited. They reserve the indoor seats for like their regulars. And the outdoor is a bigger area. Like Eric Allen. The story is Eric Allen rolled in because his kid goes to like Portland State. And Eric Allen was sitting outside. And they're like, you got to come inside. It's like after the first quarter, if a regular doesn't show up, you can take their seat. So they're like, you got to come in. But yeah, Eric Allen was watching a game here. It's a great story. It was the Inquirer wrote it this week, I think.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's very cool. Here you go. 4th and 2. Let's get back to the game. And here's Slay on the side.
Looking there. Incomplete. For Leggett. And Darius Slay had the coverage, and Young knows that he.
Yeah, it's some nice plays. Yesterday.
Yeah, he did. He
was
did.
up and down,
you're
I
thinking
thought.
about it, right? But here it is. Saquon breaks the record.
Sorry, guys.
It is now Saquon, the all-time single-season rush.
Oh, it's Saquon.
It's only 13, week 14.
He's amazing. And he's the reason why the Birds are a true contender for the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody. That's going to do it for us. JP, great job as always. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll kind of dive back through this game. We'll start to look ahead at Pittsburgh. We'll take a look at Flyers and Sixers from the weekend as well. And, of course, keep you posted on the winter meetings.
Tortorella again.
Have a great day, everybody. We love you. We'll see you in the morning.
We all silly like the mayor.